Danica, can you just give us a summary of the Jewelers International Showcase event, please?
Sure. So the Jewelers International Showcase is run by Reed Exhibitions USA. Reed Exhibitions is one of the largest show organizers in the world. It's a publicly traded company. They produce 400 shows annually, and this was their first event in the US market in over a year since the pandemic. The event had 3,000 buyers and 170 exhibitors, and it was held at the Miami Beach Convention Center. There was signage in each of the booths to show how many people could be in a booth at a particular time. Also had safety stewards to remind attendees and exhibitors to wear their masks. They had shirts on that had a phone number for someplace to call if an attendee or an exhibitor had a question or a concern about the health and safety requirements. They also carried around little lollipop signs with, reminding people to wear their mask, and they really served as the mask police. Contactless registration and daily temperature screenings with wristbands for each different day. There were different colors. They also had one entry only door and one exit only door to the exhibit hall, and they were also checking IDs for people on the way into the exhibit hall, since there was jewelry and expensive merchandise on the floor. They had wider aisles and no carpeting, and they did have some food and beverage in the hall, but it was in the back of the hall, and there were food courts, and they had tables with only 3 chairs and physically distant spacing, and then they also had some tall tables with no chairs at all so that people wouldn't be congregating around those chairs. They had health and safety reminders on signage throughout the convention center. So those were just a handful of the new and different things from pre-COVID times to during COVID times.
Danica, can you just give us some key takeaways of the attendee experience and how that might have been different from previous years?
Sure. So one of the things that I noticed for the first time at Jewelers International Showcase was people did have vaccination cards and were fully vaccinated for the first time at any event for, since before the pandemic. So that was very different than before, right? People were showing me their vaccination cards, and they, there were people that were there. You could tell there was an older crowd that it personally told me that, they felt comfortable being there because they had been vaccinated. So I think that it really ramped up the attendance during the last couple of weeks before the show because people did have time to get vaccinated. I will also say that some of the attendees that I spoke to, the jewelry business did well in a lot of cases last year during the pandemic. People weren't spending money on vacations or international travel, and so they were spending money on jewelry and big ticket items like that to remember, special occasions. So, the buyers that were there were there to restock their stores, and they did have cash and carry at the event. And so people were, had their suitcases and were filling up their suitcases to bring back for the busy upcoming summer season.
Danica, can you give us some key takeaways of how the exhibitors found the event?
So the exhibitors that I spoke to were all really thrilled to be back at events. Some of them had exhibited in other events prior to that. Maybe one or two. There was the Atlanta Jewelry Show a couple weeks before that. So there was some people who had experience with already being out and exhibiting at shows. And, most of the companies that were there were small and medium-sized businesses that, really didn't have the opportunity to meet new customers or, see their customers face to face during COVID without trade shows. So they were really thrilled to be back in front of their existing customers, but also their new customers to meet new people. And exhibitors that I spoke to did meet new customers and did get some business from new customers while they were there at JIS.
Danica, can you just give us a sense of what's next for the Jewelers International Showcase and also for Reed Exhibitions overall?
Sure. So Jewelers International Showcase will be back in person in Miami in the fall. And JCK is the next jewelry portfolio show for Reed. And that's in August in Las Vegas. The next show for Reed Exhibitions is the Vision Expo in June in Orlando.